Welcome to the Concept 101 podcast. My name is Daniel.
Stefan.
And Jules.
We are three concept artists currently working in the film and games industry, as well as the organisers of the Concept 101 event in London. Before we start, we also have to thank the current sponsors of the Concept 101 2023 event. So a big thank you to Shark Mob, Chromatic Studios, Adam Hawk, Frame Store, Moon Colony, Foster & Partners, Mood Visuals, Rare, Brainbug, Playground Games, Learn Squared, Art Wad, Focal Point School, Wacom, Mathematics Studios, and Shark Corner. So how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. It's nice.
I'm living.
It's always good to meet and chat in a civilized way with you guys.
Yeah,
Nothing civilized about what we do.
No.
Yeah.
We can see it, but we each have a gun on each other.
This is like
It's a Mexican standoff over here. All the way. He's like, whose topic is going to be first today?
I speak next, not you.
And starting off for the first time ever, it's going to be Jules. So what's your topic that you want us to kind of talk about for a bit today?
I think lately, I don't know why, but I've been finding quite hard to motivate myself to do personal work, especially because I feel like everything has already been done. And a lot of the ideas are very classic. And I don't want to do something that's been already done many times. And I find it quite hard to just create something unique and, just getting something in front of people that hasn't been done before. Because I don't want to spend my energy doing another military guys shooting at a monster or something. I want to try and do something new, And
Sure.
So what I want to talk about is how do you guys find subjects? How do you make yourself creative? How do you get to create personal work that is outside of the noise, I guess, on our station? And how to, how to make that, if someone looks at your artwork, they're like, oh wow, it's that thing. Yeah, and they're not going to forget about it. And like, even if they don't know your name, they're going to be like, oh yeah, is the artwork with, hopefully it just describes in 2 words,
Yeah.
the red dragon. And hopefully it's original enough that there's only one
Sure.
artwork that fits into the description.
So what do you think to start off with about that? There's that common turn of phrase like nothing's original.
Yeah.
I mean, so how does that fit into your kind of view on all of this?
Well, yeah, nothing is original, maybe, but I guess there's it's not black or white. It's probably like a scale of gray, or and so you can do. Oh, I'm going to do a dragon. That's a dragon, or
Yeah.
I'm going to do, and then just a very long description of something which is very weird, maybe even too weird, too original, or maybe you can say, I'm going to do something which just hasn't been done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny you're saying stuff that's too original, because one of the big problems with concept art sometimes, especially with like younger students, is that they'll say like, I'm going to make something that's so original. And you're like, that's cool. I don't know why this student had a very deep voice there. When I was going, yeah, this is sick.
Yeah, usually it's like, you use, that's the word you use.
I'm going to do something that's very original. It's my Mickey Mouse voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the problem is that then, they're like, I'm going to design the most original car ever. And then they design something that looks like a banana. And you're like, well, that doesn't look like a car.
Yeah.
So there is definitely that thing of like, no matter how unique you're trying to push things, you always have to frame it within a existing kind of frame of reference, essentially. Yeah, there's like boundaries to what a thing can be.
Yeah, I would say sometimes it's, it can be to your own detriment to try to create something that's too unique, too new, especially when you are at the beginning of your concept art journey, where you still need to practice design skills. If you don't know how to design a pretty window, you probably shouldn't be trying to design a cool ass mech dragon thing, when you haven't even learned how to design like a basic architectural piece. I think like learn how to break down things into like smaller pieces and understand them, and then use that shape language to design something new.
I think it's interesting because there's nothing wrong, especially really at any stage in your career, at going with a simple subject matter that has been done before. You can always just be like, okay, I'm going to either try to match the quality standard here, or I'm going to try and make something that's like 1% better. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially because that can be a really good tool to learn and then use it as like a jumping off point.
Yeah, totally.
To make something like that actually is unique. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like going, I guess, back to the main question, I always think that it's the most memorable stuff or the most like quote unquote unique stuff, whether or not you think anything's unique or whatever, it's usually just like an expression of someone's personality. I think that's where you always get the best stuff, is like when people really try to think deeply about like what it is that they enjoy and what it is that they like and the artists they like, and they synthesize something new from all of that, rather than, I guess, like feeling the institutional pressure to make like a certain thing. Like you were saying, like a red dragon. I mean, how many, there's a billion different pieces of art on the internet of red dragons flying around, but I have no doubt that there's probably artists out there who are super passionate about red dragons.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna do something amazing, right? I have nothing against red dragons.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as an example.
Yeah,
it's like, I think as long as somebody has the passion to pursue something in an interesting way, and usually that does come with the passion, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of when you start to make more unique stuff.
Yeah. It's like passionate people are interesting to listen about. To listen to, sorry. No matter how, like, as soon as they're passionate about something, when they talk about it, it really interests yourself as well, because they're just into it. But yeah, I guess this feeling comes also maybe because of being working in the industry. And I guess I'm in a job which I really enjoy at the moment. I don't really feel like changing or anything like this. And so it's like, if I do take the time to do personal work, it's not really too much for portfolio reasons. It's not really too much for work reasons. It's more just for my own fun. So it's like this, I could be spending time with you guys, or I could be with my girlfriend, or I could be whatever.
I like how we came first. Spending time with you guys, maybe my girlfriend if I have time.
No, but I could be doing other stuff, and it's like when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend, because it takes at least a day, I guess, to make a good concept art for portfolio, maybe more if I really want to do something original, I guess. So it's like what is worth the time of doing so much work, and yeah, I guess that's been the thing which is a bit hard to know.
I think it's kind of that thing of like, you want to use all of your time productively, but at the same time, I think to make something unique, you usually burn a lot of time making ununique and very boring stuff.
Yeah.
It's like with the promotional piece that I did for our contest this year, I think that's a fairly unique like spaceship design. It's very strange, right? But in between getting to there and the start, there was a lot of just very generic, boring stuff where I was like, this is a sick idea, and I'd sketch it, and then I'd build it up in 3D or something, and then I'd light it, and they'd be like, oh no, this is boring actually. And I wouldn't have. I think it's very difficult to, like you were saying, like if you have a day to commit to something, it can be very, very hard to just go straight to like, whoa, that's interesting and unique and cool. Like you have to usually burn through all the generic, boring stuff. Even just another project like there's that Snowball, the dog with the tentacles, the white dog with the tentacles coming out of its face. Like, I think that's also like a fairly unique design. Like, I think judging from the reaction of some of the people who saw it, like they were like, oh, this is like cool. I haven't seen something like this before. But I did some really, 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 really boring generic Yeti designs prior to that, and they were very boring comps and keyframes. And it actually, it took going through all of the boring stuff to get to the interesting stuff. So I think in a way, part of what can force you to make something unique is that thing of like, if you write down 100 ideas, one of them will be good. So totally. Pushing through those 99 to get to that one, I think is often the way that, at least for me, I end up with like more unique stuff that fits my personality better.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I find the first advice that you gave as well quite good, with like your interests, even with personal projects. So when when I did I forgot what's the name of it, the for the Ricardo Lima's course, the keyframe project, and it was like a piece that was protesting against the war and like the big propaganda that happens in those areas, and a little bit of the experience that I had when I lived in post-Soviet era countries when I was younger. And that was something that I chose because I was struggling to be like, oh, what should I do my project about? And the first thing that came in my mind was like, oh, probably a Japanese, like about Japan. And I was talking about it with my friend. He's like, yeah, man, but you're not Japanese, so like you're not gonna make it like authentic. And yeah, it was so much easier when I started to think about the project and taking from the memories that I had, and not necessarily that I was passionate about it, but I had very good memory. I had some great memories about that time and like remembering these things.
It kind of fuels your creativity, I guess. Yeah.
Is that whole thing of that writing theory of write what you know? You take things from your real life and you implement them back into your art, essentially, which I think is super valuable. I think maybe the caveat to that is it doesn't always have to be something that you know, but it has to at least be something that you're genuinely interested in. Like, for me, fantasy work is not super interesting to me. I mean, I like fantasy work, and I appreciate it as well when other people make it, but for me, sci-fi stuff is considerably more interesting. And I think when I've done fantasy work in the past, I kind of look at it, I'm like, is this what like a piece of art by Daniel McGarry looks like? You kind of have that like internalized feeling of like it's almost like weird imposter syndrome where you're like, this is wrong. Not to say that I can't make stuff like that, but it just doesn't feel genuine to my personality at this moment in time.
Especially with personal work.
Yeah.
Like that's the one time in artist's careers where you're like, you do what the fuck you want. So why do something you don't want, right? So yeah,
it's really interesting if you're talking about like personal work as well. Like if you look at like someone like Ralph McQuarrie, Ralph McQuarrie spent his whole career painting Star Wars stuff. But if you buy some of his books, which have like collections of his work, they have his personal work in the background, and they're like wildly different. They're incredibly like brightly colored, almost like abstract paintings. And it's like it's interesting to see. That clearly for somebody like Ralph McQuarrie, who we all, like pretty much everybody in the industry respects immensely, and he's like one of the best of all time, right? Even he had a totally different rendition probably in his head of what a Ralph McQuarrie piece of art looked like, which changed as he grew and got older and stuff.
And totally. And I guess going back to getting a lot of inspiration and kind of fueling your creativity, that's also why it's important to just be very curious, I guess. Travel, all that kind of stuff. Just have kind of diversifying.
Diversify.
Yes.
Yeah.
English. your point of interest, just to get. I mean, most of the ideas I have sometimes I just refer to when I went on holiday somewhere, and I just see this cool stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take a picture of it, and then it kind of fuels the creativity.
Or even just going to a museum.
Reading or just speaking with people, listening to stories. Usually it's like whatever. Like if I don't have any idea, I just try to learn about stuff I don't know, and then it kind of feels. Which brings me to the question: is like, what are the usual tips to make something creative? For example, or like to make something unique, or to make a piece to give that your image the factor. Something I like to say is maybe having it easily describable. Oh, I'm struggling with English today.
Just say it in French. It's fine.
So you're able to describe it easily.
Yeah.
That was French.
Yeah, man. Very weird French from the UK. No, but so it's like if you can make it that if I refer to some like your demon piece, for example, with the baby, it's like the demon baby the demon baby kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's very easily way to describe this piece you did. Or if I go to the crocodile thing, the crocodile insect, that's 2 words and it describes it and people remember about it. And I think I hope they do. So if you find this idea which stays in the head or which has something that hasn't been done before, that's where you can really be creative.
I think one big thing for being creative and being unique is trying not to be too incestuous with the references that you build up. So that's a big thing that I know. I think it was Miyazaki. I mean, he complains about everything, right? But I think there was some interview that he did many years ago where he was talking about how he doesn't enjoy anime because the life that a lot of people who make anime experience is via anime. They don't go out and experience things. They're just like, neeks who stay indoors and that's their life experience. So then when they go on to make manga or anime, it's based on the life of someone who's only read about life through manga and anime. And in the same way, it's very important to, when you're building reference boards, I always say this to students who I work with, like, maybe have one piece of concept art in there at the most. Because if you just have a concept art board that's filled with concept art and not with real world references and real world architecture and things that people have actually built, then you're just making like a poor man's imitation of someone else's artwork rather than building something unique out of real world stuff, essentially. And I think that's really important because, you know, even with that thing of like, just go back to red dragons, probably one of the big problems with that, or that almost like those like big subject matters that people hit in the industry, where, you know, like everybody has a painting of a dragon in their portfolio or whatever, is a lot of people's references for dragons are other people's paintings of dragons, totally. Right? Rather than like, if you go look at like Terrell Whitlatch, who's, you know, an amazing creature designer, and she did all the creatures for Star Wars, you know, you can look at the notation of like what animals she was putting together and thinking about like the physiology and like, oh, well, this kind of animal will probably need this, so I'm going to put this different like form onto it to make it more realistic and more unique. And so I think that's very, very, very important to think about when you're creating something. It's just like, yeah, what can you pull into this that hasn't essentially been done before in our industry?
Yeah, and I think referencing is such an important part of creating a project, what you just described, because if you have the wrong reference, or if you don't think your reference, I've seen some people, they just have a huge board of 100 references, but they cannot explain why they chose each reference.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's cool, so I just have it here.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very important to have, you can talk through each of the image you have and tell you what you like about it, why it's here. And if there's like twice the same image or something that is twice the same, get rid of it. And then you have a very good synthesis of what you like and why you like it.
I always say it should just be like 10 key images. You can have more. You can have more images added on afterwards, but if you have 10 core images that, like, when people look at them, that should explain your project.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. Sometimes I recently did something, work where we had to do very difficult design, and it had to be really unique and had to be kind of something that has never been done before. And it was quite a difficult task, and it was two of us working on it at the same time for 2 weeks, just doing sketches, ideas, and it actually helped to have like a huge ass library of photos, and you just kind of like look through them in the morning and try to see an inspiration and pull together a few. But we did have like a very specific art direction for it, which is like, okay, this artist plus this artist, and then plus like this real world, you know, textures and things that happen in nature, right? And then go on and kind of like keep this in mind, but like look for more references and find your own inspiration. And one thing that I found that helps really is when you're trying to figure out the unique design is to do two things. First, sketch, and second, also do something that looks kind of finished, like kind of finished designs, right? And yes, it takes time, and, you know, depending on how much time you have with this project, it might be difficult to do like 2 or 3 finished pieces and then be like, this sucks. But yeah, it's good to have a collection of sketches and finished things, maybe even finished looking, just so you can assess like how good the idea is, and then go back to sketching, and then go back to doing like finished looking thing, and that's why you can kind of bounce back until you are seeing something that's quite unique.
I think that one other thing in terms of references as well that can be super important, you're saying like scrolling through loads of images and to get some inspiration, is just understanding that although there is that phrase where people are like, everything's based on something, there's nothing original, there are actually quite a lot of new things being built every day. You know,
and I mean also ideas, right? You can have an original idea based on pre-existing stuff. It's like how you mix existing things to make a new idea.
Yeah, but even on that, there are new things that are just being built every day. I mean, like bio-organic architecture is like something that has only existed for like 10 years. I haven't seen that many projects about that. Or like, you know, if you're curious and you involve yourself in like new methods of technology, like new things that have been discovered, you know, like for example, every so often they find some new sea creature at the bottom of the seafloor, right? Well, there's a new reference that no one has ever used before. So I think if you kind of remain reticent of like what's happening in the world around you, although, you know, people are always like, everything's based on nature, everything's built like that. Well, sometimes it's not. You know, there are amazing new things that are pioneered every single day, even just down to like getting cool new ideas because someone's like, you know, it's like if you look in the news lately, they're getting surprisingly close to cracking like cold fusion, you know, like every week that gets closer. And it's just like, when I think about that, I'm thinking about like, okay, what are the design possibilities that could come from cold fusion being a real thing? Like, how would the world change? How can you imagine the world changing because of that?
No money for electricity.
Yeah.
Free electricity for everyone.
Well, hopefully, but yeah, and it's like, even if you're thinking about like, you know, let's look at steampunk was a thing in like the 2000s, right? And then what built out of steampunk because of the creation of like clean technology was solar punk, which is a whole new genre of design and art and thinking, which is, you know, like quite utopian and nice actually.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, like I'm saying, just being aware of what's going on in the world around you can be the best resource to discover new things and to create new ideas.
Reading books as well. Sci-fi.
Oh, I can't read. No.
Listening to books, I listen to
Yeah.
them, and then I tell people, oh, you know, I read this book, and you're like, you read it or you listened to it? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I listened to it. And they're like, fool.
The biggest book I read was Dune recently.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, and I'm reading another one. I read like 200 or 200 odd pages of it, but I read so slow. And I like to read massive books. Like the bigger the book, the more I'm like, yes, give it to me.
Just like the gym, the bigger the weight, the bigger the book.
The bigger the book and the bigger the words inside, right?
No, it's tiny. No, it's tiny
only,
words,
man.
man. It's just massive book.
It's only really 10 pages when you shrink the words down.
One word per page with like tiny, with like drawings, you know.
Well, you're reading that, Stefan? June.
And yeah, like also documentaries. I'm gonna go a bit offshoot, but recently I watched a documentary about the conquest of deep sea and also how they got to mine the fossil fuels in the deep sea.
Yeah.
And basically, at first they built homes below the sea, right, where people would stay there and live there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you breathe oxygen, you become crazy and you just die. But if you breathe helium, it's fine. You don't become crazy, but you become drunk essentially. But if you breathe helium, it's fine. So people that used to live in these houses would breathe helium, and so they would all speak with voices like this all the time for all their life. I mean, for all the time they were in the houses. And then with the years, they kind of figured out that having a house below the sea wasn't a good idea. So they have. So if you go to the petrol station in the sea or whatever it's called, they have these houses which are above the sea, which are fully closed, filled with helium. You have people that stay in there because they are under pressure, and then they just go to work by taking some sort of lift to go below the sea, minus 500 meters, whatever. They work there, they continue to breathe helium, they go back to their small closed houses with helium, and they just live like this for like a few weeks, and then they have to wait to decompress, and then they can go out. But I thought it was crazy, and this is kind of stuff that you just listen to in a
I mean, it sounds like some weird sci-fi film.
But it just happens here, and it's like I can't believe that
What
some
is this?
people.
Are they
it's just
mining underwater?
yeah. So basically, all these fossil fuel thing in the sea, they need maintenance, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, now also it's much less because they have submarines and drones. But back in the day, and maybe still now, you need some people that are able to go below the sea, so divers. And if you want to go minus 500 meters,
Which is a lot.
it would take you basically like many days to decompress. So that means that the swimmers will have to stay in the water to go back up for like a week or maybe 2.
Yeah.
So now what they do is that they just live in a compressed house already.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They dive down,
Yeah.
they go back up. So everything is at the pressure that they need to below sea. And then in the house, they slowly decompress and they leave. And then there's a shift.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And
you would go
it's
crazy
fucking
if you had to
crazy.
live there for a long.
And it's even funnier that first they just put the houses in the sea. There's like the French, for example, they did so many research on that, and also the Americans and all that, and Swiss as well, apparently. And pretty crazy.
Yeah. Can I do my one then?
Yeah.
Can
That
I
was
do
my little
Am I allowed my one now?
water thing.
I hope you feel more unique and creative, Jules. I mean, every time I look at your work now, I'm just like, oh, so generic.
Yeah, so generic.
But now I'm sure you'll be making 10 out of 10 stuff.
Yeah, you fueled my creativity. Thank you.
Yeah.
One last thing.
Oh god. Okay.
Just Google your idea. If you see that it's filled on it with our station, maybe don't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I try to Google it. If I see that no one did it, I'm like, Okay, did no one did it because it's a bad idea, or is it because it's an original idea? And if
Yeah.
it's original idea, do it.
And I will say, because I've done this once with a project, if you are going to use other people's work as inspiration, then just credit them. I did a mech project where like I designed this whole mech. I think the actual design of the mech was fairly unique, but when it came to figuring out the keyframe for it, I like lost it, and I spent like 4 weeks moving my 3D model around, like trying to think of this comp, and then I saw an image by Ben Mauro, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm just doing that. So I just like functionally. I actually, do you want to know how close it is? That
I know which one it is.
Yeah, but it's so close that if you look on like training data websites for AI, right? If you put my image in, it comes up with his image, and vice
wow.
versa. Yeah. So that's how bad I copied his keyframe. But there you go.
Well, you credited it.
Yeah, I credited it, and I think at least the design was unique enough that it's not, you know, like I'm not totally ripping it off. I mean, worst case scenario, I can always just remove the keyframe, and the design can still stand on its own 2 legs. Or 4 legs in this case. Anyway.
Your idea now.
Yeah.
Woo! What is it?
So I wanted to talk about just like new programs, because I've been using Plasticity recently, which is a new, really cool piece of CAD software. And I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. So pretty much, I'm sure you guys know, like most of the programs that we use. So if you're using like Blender, for example, you're poly modeling, right? Usually. And if you're using ZBrush or 3D Coat, you're like voxel sculpting. Although I think ZBrush has their own internal system, but whatever. So you're always using different methods. And one of the things that I've never used is CAD, because CAD is really, really focused on like industrial designers because it's precise. And it's a little bit like dry, I suppose, compared to other stuff. You can't push it and pull it as much.
It's much more mathematic, I guess.
Yeah. And so recently this program called Plasticity came out. I think they released it like 2 months ago, and I got myself a copy. Because it's really good price, and it's, you know, an eternal license unless they sell it to Maxon or something, I guess.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
How much is it?
It's $99. So for a full program, it's pretty
That
good.
is very cheap, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And for like ever, or is
Yeah,
it
yeah, forever, yeah.
Wow.
And free updates,
Ooh,
I think.
tempting.
So it's really good. I've really been enjoying it because it's essentially like a CAD for concept artists. And one of the big advantages with CAD is, you know, like, for example, let's say that you just want to like put 2 objects together, like a circle and a square. Well, the great thing about CAD is once you join them, you can essentially blend them as like a seamless object. So when I stick a cylinder on the end of a cube, I can then fillet and bevel the whole connecting edges and make a seamless object. Whereas, you know, if you're doing that in Blender, it's going to be a whole thing where you like try to shrink wrap it, or you're trying to use like fairly complicated like sub-D modeling techniques, and that's just a lot of hassle. So yeah, I've added it into my workflow, and it's really interesting because you know, it's opened up a whole kind of new world of shapes and stuff, which I think is really cool. Because, you know, whenever I'm sure you guys have had it where you like pick up a new program and you're like, oh, now I can make something like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I learned Fusion 360 a while ago, and then I did one stuff with it, like at work, like one project.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I never used it afterwards. Just didn't find it like more superior to polymodeling, but but I've learned ZBrush recently as well. And that one I really think was just great. I think that's
ZBrush is
ZBrush is amazing. Yeah. That definitely I did it, and I was like, okay, I can do so much more now that I couldn't before. Yeah.
I guess it's this thing, every time you have a new software, it takes a lot of work and time and experience to get to the point where you feel comfortable with it, to fit it in your workflow, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Plasticity seems amazing, but like, I guess for me to use it, it would mean that I need to do work which requires that kind of modeling, which I don't tend to do.
Yeah.
And
But
or I would use it for one project. I would probably love it, but then it would be hard to keep doing it because it doesn't really. I can see how it fits with your work.
No, but okay. So this is the interesting thing about it is you're saying, because obviously, yeah, like for example, ZBrush, it's very difficult keeping on top of all of your programs. You know, like programs I don't use so much, like 3D Code, where I use it for like very specific stuff. Sometimes I go back to it. I'm like, fuck, what's the button for this? And
All right, let's go on YouTube and let's learn again the whole thing.
It's like, why isn't this mesh dividing properly? And how do I export this again? You have all these problems.
Yeah.
The thing that I feel like I should be getting sponsored by them, honestly. But Plasticity is so fucking easy. It's really, really, really easy. There's people I know who, like, I would say generally are not the most 3D savvy people who've picked it up in like half an hour. It took me 20 minutes to learn the whole program.
Wow, nice.
And it's because it's unlike something like Blender or ZBrush or 3D Code. It's a extremely like specialist piece of software. So it really does like one thing, and it does that one thing really, 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 really well.
Yeah.
So in terms of like there's nothing to lose or get confused about, which is what makes it so sick. And I haven't got the chance to use it at work yet. I guess I have used it a little bit, but I'm just very excited to, have a new little thing under my tool belt, essentially.
Next mech you have to design.
Yeah, definitely.
Plasticity,
Yeah.
But like,
Are you definitely using some of it? I don't think I would build a whole model in there, but for example, sometimes I'll be designing a mech, for example, and I'll be like, oh, it'd be really nice if this knee plate seamlessly transitioned into like this other section of the mech. And if I'm doing that in Blender, I'm like, okay, well, either I'm going to voxel model this so that it's just like I can just like use a smoothing brush and then you get all problems of voxel modeling, or I'm going to have to go through a very complicated process of figuring out how to model this in Blender. Or complicated for me. I'm sure there's people listening who are like, it's easy, dipshit.
Just put this 20 modifiers on top of it.
But yeah, in
just use the
Plasticity,
quad mushroom.
yeah, but in Plasticity, it's so easy. And
Nice.
the other great thing is, it's really low poly. It doesn't like add weight to your scene. It's actually more low poly than making it in Blender because
Does-
you're using N-gons.
Does it transfer as well to Blender?
Yeah, and in the
It
new
looks good?
update,
Yeah?
very good. And in
Nice.
the new update, they're literally building a bridge for Blender.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
one
Look
of the
at-
best thing with
Yeah,
ZBrush as
it's,
well.
I
With
can
my
see
ZBrush
the-
setup, I click one button, it goes to Blender, and then I'm in Blender. I'm like, I click one button, it goes back to ZBrush.
Yeah.
And this is just the
Yeah,
best.
I haven't had that set up yet, but
It takes
I've never
like 2
set that
minutes.
up either,
It's-
yeah.
you can show
You
us.
just, no, I can't. I can tell you the YouTube videos because I would be. I forgot how to do it.
I just press File, Export.
Too much effort. Too much effort. Although, if you want to export with all the textures and if you want a displacement map, you have to do it the old way,
Yeah.
which still is very fine.
I still get confused when I'm trying to export poly paint from ZBrush. That is forever infuriating. When you're trying to like get the vertex color to work in the shader menu.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work.
With the bridge,
Yeah.
you don't. So you just export the. If I just click export to Blender, it exports and it has the vertex paint.
Oh, that's amazing.
By default.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have
that's
to
cool.
set up any texture. Then you can. You basically have this texture
Yeah.
without UVs. Oh, no one loves UV. And then you just do whatever you need, and it's very nice.
Damn, I don't know that. I need to get on.
Honestly, it will take you probably 20 minutes, even less, to set it up, and then it's instant.
When I do more tasks in ZBrush, I don't know if I can think of something coming up right now, but I'm sure that will be at some point.
Anyway, long and short of it is Plasticity. Please pay me to do a project in your program. I'll advertise it very hard.
Concept 101 2024.
Yeah.
Plasticity,
Sponsor,
yeah.
Plasticity.
No, fuck that. Just pay me.
All right, that's the deal. Daniel does all the advertisement for you, and Stefan and me get some of the money for it.
What? Why?
Amazing.
Also, we don't get any money out of
That's true. Yeah. I would like some money, like in theory. But I mean, does your job pay you? I'm still doing it for. They just give me like food.
Well, he told me I might get credit sometimes.
Oh, okay, that's nice, yeah.
And maybe once per year I might upload one at work.
Wow.
I heard myth about royalties in games.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's crazy. Wait, do you get paid at your job though?
No, we have free breakfast now.
That's great.
Ah,
Yeah, free breakfast is good.
That's good because
And
me
we
and
have a-
Jules have been feeling hungry lately, so maybe.
And we have a ping pong table as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Eating
Before we
the
get
ping pong balls.
sued, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to summarize,
Yeah.
Plasticity is great because it's like very friendly and useful and friendly
Very
and easy
concept
to
art
use.
friendly.
Concept
Extremely.
art translates well to Blender, so fits in the workflow.
Yeah.
And it answers some of the issues that Blender has. Not the issues, but
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the functionality that Blender doesn't have.
If you want to do a tight model of something, I'd really recommend it. I mean, just in terms of, I would love to get a prop design project at work and to be able to use it for that, because especially on a prop, you're so much closer to a small object, and having those subtle transitions adds so much more kind of like love to the design.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really, really looking forward to is a project like that where I can really push it to the limit of, I guess, what it should be used for. So that's my thing. Just a short one for today, but
I mean, that's cool. That's great. I think it's always nice to discover new tools. It's one of the things that also keeps, I think, many artists motivated is just learning new stuff. There's always new things in the industry, bad or good.
Yeah.
Lots of bad stuff lately. But this, I think, is a good thing, and it's nice to see it, to kind of celebrate it and try it. And also this, I wish we were sponsored, but that is a very good price. Like, I mean, free would be better, but $100 for software, I mean, that's insanely. I mean, how much is ZBrush? I mean, how much is C4D? How much is all those?
ZBrush is like £100 a month.
Yeah, I mean, how much is Photoshop? And I mean, so
20
yeah,
quid a month.
yeah.
So in 5 months you're already.
Yeah. You could buy. How about we just quit all our other software and we just use Plasticity?
I mean, our companies pay for a lot of our softwares, so.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So let's start with a new
Topic?
and I would like to talk about something that I've discovered recently when Daniel stormed into my room and was interested to see how I sketch.
That is very unfair. You asked me to
Yeah,
come
I
into
did,
your
I
room
did.
to see how you sketched.
This as Daniel does every morning.
so
He's like,
actually-
wake up! Wake up!
I shake him.
Time to wake up! I just finished Breaking Bad, so I can see you like, Jesse!
No, he's like David Goggins. Who's gonna carry the logs and the boat, Stefan? You have to do it. And I'm like, okay, and I like wake up and like pick up my boat, my boat. I mean, like my bed, and then
you
it's just,
become your boat.
I become my boat. Yeah.
Stefan wakes up about 2 hours earlier than me every day, though. So
Oh wow.
he actually very kindly goes back to sleep, so I can wake him up.
Time to pretend I'm asleep for Daniel.
Yeah. It's all for my benefit.
So I asked Daniel recently if he can help me out with sketching because Daniel has quite a confident line weight when he sketches in his sketchbook.
Thank you.
And I wanted to learn a little bit. And I've improved since I've been kind of living with Dan and observing how he sketches. I've improved in that sense, but there was still like a lot more to
Observing the
improve.
He's
creature.
observing me, yeah.
That's how I.
Dan wakes up every day at 8 a.m.
So
After
I
a
would
bowl of
wake up at 8
cereals,
a.m. as well.
he sharpened his pen.
I sharpened my pen. Just ink going everywhere.
After realizing it was the wrong thing, he sharpened his
He sharpens the pencil.
Talking about that, Stefan did actually ask me recently how to sharpen a pencil. So, I mean, if one of us is doing that, it's him.
It's obviously by biting into it.
Do you know what's crazy? I've never seen this done before. He was, and you said that someone recommended you do this, so this might be totally legit. But he was sharpening it with sandpaper.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
No, but it actually.
I used to take a
Knife.
a cutter, whatever it's called, and
But
do that.
but I found basically that I would, if I wanted specifically with this pencil, if I want to get the edge really sharp. It does help with the sandpaper. So I would obviously cut it with the knife, and then it would help with the sandpaper just to get the edge even sharper.
Yeah, he took one of my knives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of many knives that Daniel has.
I do have a surprising amount of knives, yeah.
I just sharpened my.
We don't mean
with,
kitchen
with,
knives, by the way. We just
with a
mean,
butter
like,
knife. Yeah,
sharp- what are they called? What?
I'm joking.
Yeah, I have a lot of scalpels
Yeah, you
for
have
some
like
reason.
Oh, yeah, nice.
I don't know why.
Sharpening.
I don't remember buying them.
Well, I mean, one scalpel per kill, right? You just have to.
Yeah. I've got them all on a string line in my room.
Yeah.
You know,
With some fingers, you just keep one finger.
where other people have fairy lights and Instagram photos, I have scalpels and Instagram photos.
That only with you guys.
So Daniel observed me sketch for a little bit, and he noticed that the way I hold my pen is different to the way he holds pen, and so we kind of checked it out, and it's a little bit difficult to describe without showing it. But
I think
basically,
I could describe it.
do you think you can say it? Yeah.
You hold your pen. You hold your pen specifically in a grip that rotates. Like usually when you hold a pen, if you've done like a lot of ink drawing and stuff, you hold it in a very relaxed grip. You don't want your thumb to be tight around it. You don't want your fingers to be like tensing up, because the tenser you are, the more kind of like jaggedy your lines often are, because you're putting too much pressure on the paper as well usually. Whereas So what Stefan was doing was, number one, he holds his pens in almost like a backwards grip. So whilst most people hold their pen so that it like drops forward onto the page, Stefan was holding it in a rotated grip so that he had to press it onto the page. So he was almost like holding his pen away from the paper, which then also meant as he would do the line, his grip would get tenser and tenser and tenser. And you could tell because it would start off and you'd do this, like the page wouldn't be moving. And by the end of his lines, the paper would be like compressing back down to the table.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that made quite a bit of difference. And also, you know, I was relying on applying pressure, like a lot more pressure on the page to get the line thicker rather than like changing the angle of the pen. Which can, you know, have similar effect. You still need to apply a little bit more pressure, but it also allows your hands, if it's more relaxed, you can move it around a bit better. And so that was the first thing that we noticed. Second thing was about drawing a line at a continuous speed. Right?
The second thing was I was holding the pen in the wrong way. So I was drawing with the eraser.
Yes, Jules. There is no eraser at a pen, but
That's not true. You can get ink erasers.
I knew you was gonna say that.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have said it.
So the second thing was to draw a line on a continuous speed, which does help with the line being consistent. Because if you draw a line faster at the beginning and slower at the start, or the other way around, slower at the start and faster at the beginning, the line could actually end up just, you know, be jaggedy and some points more than the others. So that also helps.
It's interesting because you can increase and decrease your speed when you're drawing a line to create more of a sense of flow. But I think what was interesting was that Stefan would be drawing objects which were meant to be of the same consistency, like an ellipse. And what would happen was he would start off very slow and then get faster and faster and faster and faster. So it was almost like a linear gradient of speed. And what was really interesting was actually once you changed your grip, you were like, okay, I'll draw an ellipse like twice and see which one is better. And you were drawing it with the like changed grip, and you were like, this feels so wrong. And you were like, I fucking hate this. And you drew this ellipse, and we were like, that's pretty good. And you're like, okay, let me do it the way that I normally do it now. And even doing it in the way you're like, oh, this is much more comfortable, it was immediately obvious that the other one was actually like considerably nicer looking, which was kind of crazy to see that even with the discomfort that it caused, you were already improving your line weight like almost quite dramatically.
I hope that everyone is currently listening to this with a pen in their hands, like, what the fuck are you talking about?
So one thing, I think one of the reasons maybe why I have a certain grip when I'm used to like really kind of having really tight grip is because my hands sweat a lot, and I wonder if it comes from the fact that I'm afraid that the pen is gonna fall out or something, or like I need to hold it stronger. But my hands don't sweat as much as they used to, so it's not as big of a problem anymore. Especially when I sketch, it used to be a problem. And so the line speed, and then finally we're just discussing like when you are drawing a subject matter to kind of, as you're drawing the line, like look at the subject and then like look at the line. And if you have a consistent speed of the line, it's a lot easier to kind of do this, like, you know, looking at the thing they're drawing and then look at the reference and then continuing until it's done.
I think people in art, like, you know, who do like kind of like life drawing stuff, I've heard it referred to as like flickering. So what a lot of artists do is when they're drawing a subject matter, they will look at the subject matter, then look down at their sketchbook and draw it. So they're retaining the information in their head and trying to put it down on the page. Then they look up, then they look down, and they draw again.
Well, what would be the... So... That seems obvious, no? What's the...
No. But so what... Like, essentially what you should be doing is flickering. So moving your eyes up and down constantly, so that as you're drawing the line, you're looking up at the reference and then you look back down on the paper to see how the line's going, and building enough confidence in your kind of motor skills to know that as you're looking in between, in that in-between
where it's
period,
going.
that you know where it's going exactly.
Fair enough.
Rather than, I'm not saying obviously you have to look up and down, but I think it's that thing of like, where, Jules just like threw his head back in his chair. But it's about, moving at a rhythm, essentially, rather than trying to retain the information in your head in that in-between period. Some people, I've seen like young artists look at a reference and then they won't look up for a solid 30 seconds to look at the reference again.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're trying to remember it all, and then obviously as you're trying to remember it and put it down on the page, because they're so concentrated on the line art, they forget what they're doing, and then when they look back up, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's not 3 arms. There's only 2
but
arms.
It does
Nah,
stand,
I'm joking. I'm going to.
it does stand from
Yeah.
the confidence and
Oh,
the
that's-
line.
yeah,
You need to
yeah.
have that first.
I mean, that's definitely a very good tip. And I guess it's all about practicing it. And
Yeah, of
maybe,
course, yeah,
I mean, we're
yeah.
doing this museum stuff where we go to museums with the concept one people and we just draw and stuff. I think this would be a great place to get used to it.
Yeah.
And probably it will look like shit until it looks good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it might
just
feel
over
easier.
time, just over
You might
time,
feel
yeah.
easier to change your habits. I mean, changing your habit to the right ones, I guess, might feel easier in terms of how you felt it was easier to make an ellipse.
Yeah.
But it might also feel wrong because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
And after time,
Yeah, you will get used to it. I mean, I'm still, it's day 2 into practicing it, so it's not gonna be there yet. And I would also just say, like, if you are worried that like you're not gonna retain the information of the subject because you're like drawing this way, if you draw a subject a few times from different angles and then you just try to and you break it down into understanding like what are the shapes and stuff, and then you can try to draw it from memory, that's the way you would retain it. So this technique doesn't go against you learning how to draw this from memory. It helps you to draw it correctly the first few times you draw the subject and like study the forms and shapes
Yeah.
properly.
I thought the most interesting thing about all of it, because me and Stefan had a pretty lengthy discussion, and by the end of it, we were like, "Whoa, it's so exciting and fun!" It was kind of interesting watching someone change the physical mechanics of how they do something in a way, and like trying to analyze maybe what was slightly going wrong with it in a way, because it's very subtle like stuff. But it really kind of like nailed down for me like how important obviously the mental capacity of doing concept art or just art in general is, right? But also the like motor neuron functions that you build up over time with practice. I mean, I'm sure you guys remember like when you started using a whacking board, if you were used to drawing on paper, it feels like you're drawing on a fucking ice rink, and your hands sliding everywhere. And even, on like an Intuos, you are drawing on the Intuos while you look at your screen. I mean, it's bizarre, but it's it's a really big part of, I guess, being an artist is fine-tuning those motor neuron skills. So, for example, when you're doing line art, you feel confident drawing the line, because if you don't, it gets jagged and it looks funky, and then you have to do multiple lines.
probably actually gets overlooked. Like, I guess we all think about fundamentals and all that,
Yeah.
but the physical technique that we're talking about right now probably gets overlooked all the time. And
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
like, I guess, I don't know, if you go to a course about fundamentals, maybe there's, I guess, 1 page about how to hold a pen, or maybe
Yeah.
none. I don't know. I haven't done too many.
I've never learned
Yeah.
this until
And
Dan told me so.
Yeah, and I guess it's actually very important.
Yeah. And like what's also thing that I found quite important, and I noticed I've been drawing with a pen for a while now, maybe a year or something, just trying to not draw with pencil. And I drew with pencil recently to do some architectural studies, and I noticed that because of my confidence in lines, my pencil drawing got better, because now I would be okay with just drawing like nice straight lines, with a pencil, rather than trying to draw a multiple jagged lines to get the line done. I'll just draw the straight lines where I need it to be straight, and then the design would be readable all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right. And it's these things that can translate back and forth if that you wouldn't even think of.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
To give credit to somebody who has kind of addressed this stuff, like Scott Robertson, in the front of How to Draw, he lists out a bunch of exercises for practicing your line weight and stuff like that. So, for example, you draw 2 dots on a piece of A4 paper, and then you try and draw a straight line in between them. Yeah. And, building up that kind of thing, understanding, for example, that like with certain types of lines, you don't want to move your hand, you have to move your elbow, right?
The shoulder.
Yeah, you have to use your shoulder with different types, and blah, blah, blah. So it is... Yeah, you're right. It is totally overlooked, but it is very interesting. And if you're somebody who's listening to this and you're thinking like, oh, I feel like my line art doesn't look that comfortable, look up different things to practice it. It's not. I mean, number one, of course, it's just like repetition and doing it, but doing like straight line exercises or doing curve exercises where you put like 3.3 dots on a page and then you try to create a functional curve between them. It's all really, really good. Even just drawing ellipses, I think that's a really big thing that a lot of people miss out on when they haven't learned perspective, because I think you can learn perspective pretty well for drawing like kind of boxy shapes without ever having technically learned perspective, right? Because it's very simple stuff. But it is so obvious when someone doesn't know perspective and they try to draw an ellipse, because an ellipse has to look pretty fucking close to perfect to look good.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also just to on this note of like talking about functional mechanics of stuff, I was thinking, do you guys do any stuff to maintain your functional mechanics? Like, you know, it's concept art and is a job where you're drawing all day. You know, have you ever experienced things like, you know, wrist pain and stuff like that?
I think luckily I almost never did. I
Yeah.
don't have any pain. So I started as a freelance artist, right? Which means that you have you can buy yourself stuff as your company, and
Yeah.
and so I was like, you know what? If I'm going to spend my life sat on a chair, I might as well buy myself a very nice chair.
Yeah.
So I got myself a Herman Miller, which
He's sitting in right now.
yeah, which I'm very cocky about.
I got convinced and I bought one
Yeah,
as
and
well.
I got him into buying one. Next name on the list is Daniel.
I have a piano stool.
Dan hasn't had the confidence to buy it yet.
It's like, you know, I figured out your health is pretty much the most important thing in life, because
Yeah.
if you don't have it, you die. And right?
Wow, wise words.
Yeah, wise word. That's gonna be on my gravestones. that'll be ironic to have on a gravestone anyway. And
Can I tell you a funny gravestone? There's a famous Irish comedian called Spike Lee, I think. Or was it Spike? Yeah, I think so. And he was like a very famous hypochondriac.
yeah.
And on his gravestone it says, "I told you I was sick."
Yeah,
Damn.
that's great. But yeah, so I guess I'm trying to not wait for the problem to appear and just get before them. And I guess luckily I don't have any back problems. I don't have any hand problems or anything.
We're all quite
So
young
far.
though, so they could be
Yeah,
like a year
yeah,
away.
yeah.
you
Ju-
never
Just
know.
wait for the for
'Cause,
like
like,
5
it's-
years of like, holy shit, man, I didn't sleep.
It's all like an accumulation, right?
Yeah.
Like if you sometimes if you've pains a lot, we would think, oh yeah, it's because I did this random thing. It's probably just you've been sitting in a shitty position. I used to sit with my legs crossed over, or like just in a weird position for my knees, and then I would get knee pains, and I'd be like, oh fuck, why do I have this knee pain? What is happening? And then I like observed myself, and I realized that I would sit with my one of my feet under. Under my ass, basically. I don't know how to explain.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, just one of my foot, and that would cause me knee pain. And then I was like, okay, I can't sit like that anymore because I'm just gonna have knee pain all the time.
I have a little bit of elbow pain because I sit with my elbows bent all day. Do you know what I mean? Like at the desk. You know, I have,
yeah.
like, so I sometimes have like quite bad elbow pain, which I think is also to do with when I used to work out a lot and I would really overdo it on like bench and stuff like that. So I think I have some kind of problems from that. But yeah, I think because my elbows are bent all the time, I'm like, oh yeah, my arms kind of, you know, they like tense up almost at like the joint.
Yeah.
So when I go to sleep, I purposely like stretch out my arms as far as possible into like almost like a over leveraged position, so that I'm like, at least they'll be straight while I sleep.
My bed.
I guess when I draw, like really press and I do line art on Wacom, I would sometimes experience a little bit of pain in my wrist. But one good tip is to just go into the Wacom tablet properties and decrease the increase the sensitivity. Actually.
yeah, totally.
So the pen pressure, so you don't have to press as hard. And especially, I don't like it when I paint, because when I paint, I like to have as much control as I can, and I like to like press soft and hard. But when I do line art, I like to have very soft touch, means already fairly strong line, and then if I touch even slightly stronger, then it's even more confident line.
wow.
That way I
Pretty
don't
good
get
advice,
really
yeah.
that much pain.
That's very good, because then you don't put pressure on your wrist by gripping
yeah.
on. Yeah. Anyway, you.
Something I noticed that would cause me problem in the past is that I used to have a small Cintiq, but it was laying at a very low angle on my desk.
Yeah.
So I would tend to, if I would use a Cintiq as it's intended to be used for, I would bend over and draw, which caused me a lot of, I guess, just discomfort and maybe pain a bit. But then I would I almost never use Cintiq as intended. I would just turn it off and just use it as an Intuos. So I would look at my monitor in front of me, just use it as an Intuos, and then I would just sit straight, and it would be great.
Yeah.
But recently, I got myself a much bigger Cintiq, which is on an arm, right?
Yeah.
So I just get it in front of me here, like on the side, let's say, and I rest this my elbow on my chair, and I just draw like this.
Yeah.
And it's like perfect, and I'm sitting straight. It's like on a 45 degree, maybe 60 degree angle, and it's great because I can use my whole arm to draw.
You need to show me because I might be able to replicate that setup.
And it's because I guess it just makes my posture great by default. I can't be like crunched over and drawing at the same time. It doesn't work. And even sometimes I use this one, which is a big Cintiq as an Intuos, because I just like looking straight.
And you have your arm all the way to the right side.
See, I will say,
that would kill my shoulder.
I had that set up at work, and it actually did cause me a bit of pain being in that position.
The one I have?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Because I had to rotate.
Oh, yeah.
I like everything lined up in front of each other.
Yeah.
Maybe if I could have like a monitor that was really high up almost.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I guess if I draw my Cintiq, I'll just turn mine.
Yeah. But I mean, I think what you're saying is really good to don't. I mean, it would be great if you go to the gym every day. I don't because I'm a lazy bastard. But at the very least, be aware of your health. Like, I think it's great I do like wrist warm-ups in the morning a lot because I feel like my wrists get a bit tense. So I'll like stretch my wrists. And if I'm like traveling even and I just have nothing to do, I will stretch my wrists and I'll kind of stretch through my fingers. Yeah. I'll kind of like pop on my joints just to make sure that at some point in the day, that's happening. And like, even when I'm on the tube, I pretty much never sit on the tube because I'm sitting all day at work. So like sometimes I go downstairs, stuff, I'm going to account to this, and I will walk around eating my dinner because I'm like, okay, I have to go back upstairs and I need to do this painting or I need to do this piece of Photoshop for the event or whatever. So I take as much time as possible when I don't have to be sitting to not be sitting.
It's good to get up, stretch a bit, even when you work. Like, your painting can be fine if you leave your desk for 1 minute, I think.
Go to Stefan's room. Give him a hug. Yeah. Shake him a bit.
Take one of your mini cutters you have as a decoration in your.
Stab it on his desk as like a vague threat. Yeah, it's great.
That's not bad.
And then correct how he holds his pen.
And then fuck off.
Yeah, cool. I mean, anything else that you guys?
No, I hope this new kind of different style and structure was good. If you have any other ideas or stuff you'd like us to talk about or any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments because we might do an FAQ or that kind of stuff in the future. Yeah. Or if you have an amazing idea, we might use it for next podcast.
And if you don't like this new format, get used to it. We're not changing it. This is it now.
It is what it is.
We like this format.
You can always come to the event and confront us.
Yeah.
And just know that Dan will have all his cutters with him.
Yeah.
And it's you never know what's gonna come up, right? You're always interested on the edge. What is the next topic? Dan is looking like
I'm so confused why you just said that.
Next podcast is gonna be about Barbie, guys.
Oh, I love talking about Barbie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Are
you enough?
Yes. That'll be the end for today's episode. We really hope you enjoyed listening, and if you want more, please feel free to subscribe. We release episodes every 2 weeks, and if you want any more additional information about the podcast or the event, be sure to check out our Instagram linked in the description below. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you.